The FDA has redefined healthy. And I say healthy, I mean literally they've redefined the word healthy. This is from Reuters. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration on Wednesday, September 28th, proposed new rules for labeling packaged foods as healthy, as it seeks to help people make informed nutritional choices which can help lower the risk of chronic disease. The proposed changes to food labeling come on the day of the first White House Summit on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health in more than 50 years. Apparently, we haven't had hunger, nutrition, or health in 50 years. That's exciting. Under the new proposal, packaged products will be allowed to carry the healthy label, subject to them containing a certain amount of food from at least one of the groups recommended by the current dietary guidelines, with specific limits on saturated fat, sodium, and added sugar. More than 80% of the U.S. population has not been eating enough vegetables, fruit, and dairy while consuming unhealthy amounts of added sugar, saturated fat, and sodium in their diet, the FDA said. But not the 20% that are listening to us. The Washington Post also said once finalized, the FDA's new system will, quote, quickly and easily communicate nutrition information, unquote, through tools such as, quote, star ratings or traffic light schemes to promote equitable access to nutrition information and healthier choices, unquote. Mm-hmm. The White House said that in a statement this week, the system, quote, can also prompt industry to reformulate their products to be healthier, unquote, by adding more vegetables or whole grains or developing new products to meet the updated definition. That's a whole lot of stuff. I feel like you've heard these conversations before.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here?
A lot. I mean, there's definitely a lot. I mean, we could sit around and talk about what we think our definitions of healthy are, individually. And we could probably come to some shared definition. And I know that's not what they're doing, is trying to think of like a long sentence to define health. They're trying to, look at it more in the context of like what shows up on food labels.
Right.
So that's that's the crux of it.
We've talked about before, they're trying to come up with some sort of scheme a scheme makes it sound bad. They're trying to come up with some way to quickly and easily identify healthy foods for people who don't know enough about proper nutrition to make those judgments for themselves.
Yes. It's a direct, like the impetus is what we always say. And that's that the environment is so chaotic in terms of food and food selection. It's so chaotic. It's kind of no wonder we are where we are. Unfortunately, it's just that people. Yeah, how do we get people to start to? The spirit is right. How do we get people to start to be able to navigate this better?
Right.
And food labels are on the back of boxes, and the back of labels, and on the side, and hard to reach.
Yeah.
And so I think, in theory, they just want something slap on the front.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I didn't realize that there's apparently regulation on who can put the word healthy on food.
Yeah.
So if they're redefining it, what was it before?
Before, the criteria was just a little bit different.
Yeah.
So for example, it emphasized 5 main categories: overall fat content, saturated fat content, sodium content, cholesterol, and specific nutrient content. And so the big distinction was that they didn't separate like monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, which have health benefits, especially if you're replacing saturated fats with those. So for example, the old criteria would have put a sugary fortified cereal as a healthy option.
Got it.
While leaving something like salmon off because of the overall fatty content. Now, if you ate 34 ounces of salmon a day, that's different. But in general, the makeup of 3 ounces or 4 ounces or 6 ounces a meal of salmon,
right,
we could agree is as healthy, if not healthier, than fortified cereal.
Yeah, the idea that you have to fortify it. It's fortified because it's not there to begin with. They have to add it in.
Yes, and that's a huge part, because that's just the kind of the food industry saying, "Hey, we're just going to make our foods to meet the standards. So let's just load these things up with vitamins and minerals. We'll say it's healthy, and we're following the rules."
So they're overcoming the shortcomings.
If I was ahead of one of those companies, I'd do the same thing.
They're going to do whatever they can do to get right under and right over guidelines, and I'm sure they will find loopholes that whether it's chemicals,
Yeah.
artificial sweeteners, whatever it is,
It's age old. Yeah, it's an age old.
They will find the loopholes
Wow.
to make sure that their foods remain as sweet tasting, etc. as can be. So.
Okay.
So that's a good point. I mean, because it feels like it's aimed more at, your average Joe just trying to select things in the grocery store. But this is kind of like, hey, this is your first warning at the level of like food manufacturers and companies to say like, hey, things are changing.
Yeah.
And we're not going to take this lightly if you want to have healthy or the green light on the front of your product.
Now, I have heard it said before, and you guys can tell me I'm right or wrong, that you need to do the majority of your grocery shopping on the outside of the grocery store, on the outside edges.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about what's in the middle, because in the middle is all the packaged food. But if it's packaged, it's not, air quotes, real food. It's not fresh meats. It's not fresh vegetables. It's not fresh fruit. It's not dairy. It's all of those things are on the outside ring of my grocery store. And none of those are going to have labels, or none of them typically do have labels like that. Is that still the case?
I believe so.
Definitely.
That's a good point in a lot of ways, because that is still kind of feels inaccessible. That's an easy place to start. It's an easy principle, but for a lot of people that's inaccessible. So they look, when they go to the interior, let's say, and they think, oh, this prepackaged meal, this should be fine. It shows me protein and vegetables on it, and whatever else. But then it's loaded with sodium and such, and it's
Preservatives
overly processed and all of those sorts of things. That's what makes it hard. So I think if this were to truly make the largest reach, it would be on stuff like that, so that if people are still looking for more convenient, often cheaper options such as those, that the manufacturers kind of do go back and, if possible, kind of clean that stuff up. But ideally, yes, why would you not start at the outsides of the store? But it's hard. It's
hard.
It's like a pyramid of decision making.
It's not convenient.
It's not hard.
It's not
You got to
easy.
cut. You got to know how to cut your stuff.
Yeah.
How much do I buy? I have 3 kids. I'm not throwing away 16 green peppers. Like,
Right.
I'd rather just get this prepackaged thing that tells me it's healthy.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Ugh. Thanks, government.
Anything else, Joe?
I mean, just a couple examples, even just like something like dried fruit. Even if they go to which most of the time have added sugar. So even if they're going
They
to
add sugar to dried fruit?
Oh yeah. Yeah, very commonly. Almost all the time, right? I mean, almost all the time. So if you got, what do they have? What's the limit here? 2 grams. So even of added sugar. So even if they don't add sugar, they add very little. Just what's the difference? Why should you eat a whole fruit versus that dried fruit that doesn't have sugar added?
Right.
There's no water volume in the fruit. You're going to eat half that bag. You're going to get the fiber. The fiber will remain, but you're going to overload on fruit, or your kids are. For example,
Yeah.
if I give my kid a bag of these
dried apple rings?
mangoes and things.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to eat half of a bag.
Yeah.
If I give him, a sliced apple, he's going to eat a much more moderate amount of the fruit. It's just an example as I was trying to go
sense.
through some of these things. And then, if you shop at a place like Whole Foods, they do eliminate a lot of the chemicals. There's certain chemicals, nitrates in the food, high fructose corn syrup. There are certain things that you can walk in there, not accessible to everybody, but then when you go in there, at least chemically those things have been eliminated. But you can load up on the same sugary stuff.
Yeah.
It's just real sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. It's still, so it's really then depends on, there's so many layers to the health aspect of it too.
There is.
So
Yeah.
Why can't anything be easy?